Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Richie and this is Dowie After Dark. Today we're going to be starting a brand new lore series. We're going to be starting with the Dwarfs and a brief overview of their history. Brave adventurers and lore seekers, today we're going to be delving into the hearts of the mountains, into the unyielding ironclad lore of the Dwarves. These are the stubborn, battle-hardened masters of the stone, steel and vengeance. From the grand halls of Karaz to the thunderous clang of forges, we're exploring the origins of the Dwarves. You want grudges that last centuries? Epic battles that shake the very earth? Unbreakable fortresses and rune magic? So grab your axe, hoist your ale, it's time for us to be doing a deep dive into the lore of the Dwarves. This is the first in a series where we're going to explore the lore of the Dwarves and a brief overview of their lore spanning the history of the old world. So let's uncover the secrets of the Karaz as we dive in. And for this, I'll pass us to our very own Shield Maiden of Valaya.
In the shadow of these ancient peaks, beneath the weight of millennia, lies a story as unyielding as stone itself, a tale of a race forged in darkness, tempered by war and driven by a single unshakable truth: honor is everything, and no wrong shall go unpunished. This is no simple myth, this is the legend of the Dwarves. Proud, stubborn, and on the edge of extinction, they stand as the last bastion against the chaos that seeks to swallow the world whole. But their story is one of vengeance, blood, and a doom that no amount of iron or stone can prevent. And today, we delve into the shadow of the dwarves of the old world. The dwarves are not like other races. They were not born of the elements or shaped by the gods' whims. No, they were forged. The god Grugni, master of stone and iron, carved the first dwarves from the bones of the mountains themselves, shaping them with his mighty hammer. Their very essence was moulded in the fires of creation, and from their first breath, they were warriors, craftsmen, and survivors. But they were not alone. Valaya, the great protector goddess, bestowed upon them the secrets of magic, healing, and survival in the darkness. From her, the dwarves learned how to carve out their great mountain cities, fortresses of stone and steel that would stand for thousands of years, untouched by the ravages of time. From their first moments, the dwarves were not merely survivors, they were conquerors of the deep. Their realm, known as Karaz, the everlasting realm, was a kingdom of unparalleled strength. Every inch of it was carved from the mountains with precision and purpose, every stone laid with the knowledge that it must last for eternity. To the dwarves, the mountain is not just a home, it is their lifeblood, their fortress. But even as they built, they knew one truth above all others: nothing in this world is truly safe. For lurking in the shadows of the mountains and in the darkness beyond were forces that sought to tear their world apart. Karaz, the Everpeak, the shining jewel of the dwarven empire. This is no mere fortress, it is a symbol of endurance, of resilience, of a people who refuse to bend or break under the weight of time. The Everpeak stands as the capital of the dwarves, where the High King sits upon a throne carved from the heart of the mountains itself. Its halls aligned with ancient runes, glowing faintly with the magic of 1,000 years of craftsmanship. The forges never cease, their fires burning day and night, producing the finest weapons and armor known to the old world. But not all Karaks remain so mighty. Karak, 8 peaks, once a grand city that rivaled even Karaz, has fallen into ruin, overrun by the vile Skaven and the savage night goblins. Its halls now echo with the twisted laughter of the insane and the screeching of ratmen who scurry through its once sacred halls. The dwarves fought for centuries to reclaim their ancestral home, but the enemy was relentless, and the mountain itself seemed to betray them. Now Karak, 8 peaks, is a tomb, a shadow of the glory that once was. Honor, to the dwarves it is everything. To insult a dwarf, to wrong their people, is to write your name in the pages of the Damaz Kron, the Book of Grudges. This book is more than a simple record. It is sacred. It is the history of everything. It is the history of every wrong committed against the dwarves, from the greatest betrayals to the smallest slights. And every grudge, no matter how small, will be answered. No insult is forgiven. No betrayal is forgiven. Perhaps the greatest of these grudges was born during the War of Vengeance, known to the High Elves as the War of the Beard. What began as a series of misunderstandings, slights, and insults between the dwarves and the High Elves spiraled into a war that consumed both their people. For centuries, dwarves and elves slaughtered each other, the empires crumbling in the wake of their rage. Kingdoms fell, entire cities were reduced to rubble, and still the dwarves fought, driven not by glory, but the need to erase the insult carved into the Damaz Kron. The war of vengeance may have ended, but the grudge lives on. For the dwarves, the pages of the Damaz Kron are eternal, and as long as one dwarf still draws breath, the grudges must be settled. Even now, centuries later, the wrongs committed by the elves still burn in the hearts of the dwarves, and they will not rest until every insult has been avenged, no matter the cost. The dwarves are a race at war, always. From the moment they were forged, they have fought. Their enemies are countless, relentless, and vicious. Orcs and goblins, mindless, brutal, and driven by an insatiable lust, they swarm from the mountains in waves, their green-skinned bodies smashing against the dwarven defences like a tide of madness. The dwarves fight with discipline, their formations holding firm, but they know that every battle against these savages brings them closer to extinction. The orcs and goblins are like vermin. No matter how many the dwarves kill, more always come, and every time the greenskins leave, ruin in their wake. And then there are the Skaven, these vile rat men, these twisted abominations that crawl through the underworld, gnawing at the foundations of the dwarven civilization. They infest the deepest places of the world, lurking in the shadows, breeding like disease. To the dwarves, the Skaven are the ultimate insult, creatures of filth and treachery, spreading corruption wherever they go. Entire Carracks, once proud and mighty, have fallen to the endless tide of vermin. The Skaven undermine the very foundations of dwarven civilization, bringing walls crashing down and filling the once glorious halls with a stink of death and decay. But perhaps the greatest enemy of the dwarves is chaos. Chaos is more than a mere foe. It is the end of all things. Where the dwarves represent order, discipline, and permanence, chaos is the embodiment of madness, destruction, and change. The forces of chaos seek to tear the world apart, to reshape it in the image of their dark gods, and the dwarves, with their unyielding nature, stand in direct opposition to everything chaos represents. The battles between the dwarves and the forces of chaos are more than just wars. They are the clash of two diametrically opposed forces. The dwarves fight with all their might, but with every battle won, they lose a little more ground. Each victory feels hollow as the tides of chaos continue to surge against their walls. The dwarves know, deep down, that the day may come where they can no longer hold back the darkness, but they will fight to the last. They will stand firm until the mountains themselves crumble beneath their feet. The dwarves are a race in decline. Once their empire stretched across the old world, their great carracks standing as monuments to their power and endurance. But now the halls are empty, the fires have grown cold, the forges that once rang with the sound of hammers striking metal are silent. Many of their greatest holds have fallen. Carrack Eight Peaks, Carrack Varn, all of them now lie in ruin, overrun by the enemies of the dwarves. Their walls, once thought impregnable, are now shattered, and the halls that were once filled with the laughter and song of dwarven kin are now haunted by the ghosts of the past. Dwarves are fewer in number than ever before, their population dwindling with each passing century. They know it. They feel it in their bones. They are fighting a losing battle, but even in the face of overwhelming odds, the dwarves refuse to surrender. They will never abandon their homes, their holds, their traditions. They will fight to the last dwarf, standing atop a pile of their fallen enemies, covered in the blood of those who dared to wrong them. And even then, when the last dwarf falls, they will do so with honour. For a dwarf, death is preferable to dishonour. They would rather be buried beneath the rubble of their own mountain than flee like cowards. Let us speak again of the Damaz Kron, the Book of Grudges. In its pages lies the fury of 1,000 years, the weight of centuries of insults, betrayals, and murders. The Damaz Kron is not just a book, it is the soul of the dwarves. Every wrong committed against them, no matter how small, is carved into these pages. And once written, a grudge can never be erased. It can only be paid in blood or in gold, and sometimes not even that is enough. To a dwarf, a grudge is not something that fades with time. It only grows stronger. The longer it goes unpaid, the deeper the wound. And some wounds cut too deep. Entire wars have been waged over the pages of this book. Kingdoms have risen and fallen because of the grudges carved into its stone tablets. Every battle the dwarves fight, every war they wage is a battle for their honour, and they will not stop until every last name in the Damazkron has been crossed out. They will settle the score, and they will not rest until they have exacted their revenge.